So intervals of increasing and decreasing are where the graph is rising and falling. So what we have to do is read the graph from the left to the right. So we read a graph from left to right because that's how our x values go from the smallest x value to the largest x value. And if you recall, our interval notation is always a small number to a big number. So that's why we read it from the left to the right, because the x values that are the smallest are on the left-hand side, and the x values that are the largest on the right-hand side. So intervals are always big, small. The question we want to ask ourselves are, where does this graph rise and fall? Where is it going up, and where is it going down? And those are going to be where it's increasing and decreasing. When we write our answer, we're always using the x values because we are reading from left to right. We're reading the x values, describing the y values. And when we write our interval notation, we'll always use parentheses. No brackets in interval notation for increasing and decreasing. The graph that I'm using is on page 11. If you want to refer back to that graph. And again, we're asking ourselves, where does this graph rise and fall? Well, if we read this graph from the left to the right, this is the left side, to the right side, and we start here on the far left, and we travel along that curve, we are falling. Okay, so the first part of this graph is a decrease interval. In other words, the y values are getting smaller. If we continue to travel along this curve, it changes directions right here and goes up. Since it's going up, this is an increase section of the graph. So what we'll do is we will read the x values from where that part of the graph starts increasing to where it stops increasing. We get up to the top at that maximum, and it changes direction again, and we're going down. So again, we have another decrease section of the graph. We get down to that minimum at 1.5, and it goes back up. So we have another increase section of the graph. Once we've established where the increasing and decreasing sections are, we get to write that, the answers to them in interval notation. So, probably let me squeeze this down, make it a little bit smaller so you can see. So we want to write increasing intervals and decreasing intervals. Where does the graph rise and fall? So the first interval that we encountered was a decreasing interval right here. So we read it from the left to the right. So the far left of this highlighted green decreasing section is right here. And it's coming from negative infinity. Remember, you're coming from the left-hand side, not the up here. You're coming from the left-hand side. So this graph, this highlighted part, is a decrease interval. It starts at negative infinity, and it stops right here. And we read its x value at negative 1.5. Increasing, decreasing intervals always get parentheses. So that's the first decrease out of 4 intervals that we have to locate on this graph. So I'm going to get rid of the highlighted part so I can highlight a different section. The next part of the graph is this increase section. So when we go to answer, we're going to put our answer here in the increase section because it's increasing in that part of the graph. It's going up. So let's see, get rid of the blue. Okay. So what I need to know is, where does this yellow highlighted purple increase section begin? So what is the x value where it begins? So right here, there's an x value of that ordered pair. And that x value is this negative 1.5. So our increasing interval here starts at negative 1.5. And it goes all the way up to the top, right there. And I need the x value at that point at the top of the increasing section, which is 0. And that is the interval for the first increasing section of the graph. All right, so I will get rid of the highlighted section because we're going to move on to the next section of the graph, which is here. That is a decreasing section. So our next answer fits down here in the decreasing part. And what we need is, where does this highlighted green decreasing section begin? It begins at this 0 of that ordered pair. So that section starts at 0 and it ends right here at 1.5. All intervals in increasing and decreasing always get in parentheses. All right, one more section to this graph. I'll get rid of the highlighted yellow because the next section that we're focused on starts down here at the bottom and it goes up. So it is an increasing interval. So our answer is going to fit in here in the increasing section of the answer. Remember that we are reading x values. So we need to know, where does this ordered pair begin? What is its x value? And it's a 1.5. And it travels up, and it keeps going. It keeps going to positive infinity, because remember, we're moving to the right. So that is a positive infinity. It gets parentheses. And those are the 4 increasing and decreasing intervals of this graph.